Hey folks, this is the Love of Cinema podcast. We like to talk movies. If you like to talk movies too, you come to the right place.
Dr. Shyam Lagu. And she says that, people like Kashinath Ghanekar. So he says, ek asto rangari, which means there is a painter.
Right.
Or, for a lack of better word, painter, who paints on walls and everything and who paints what is demanded of him. And then there is an artist who, with his own aesthetic, changes the sensibility of a generation. Now that is a very evolved thought. And it is also the thought and the difference between these two people. And I thought that if I'm talking about Kashinath Ghanekar, it will be stupid to just tell a personal story. I wanted to tell the journey of Marathi theatre. How he came, consolidated the Marathi theatre when it was floundering with Raigadala Jeva Zagete, created a, sort of consolidated it with Ashrunji Zali Phule, with Lalya. He just took it to another level, the economics changed. And then the third turn which Marathi theatre took was in the form of Dr. Lagu coming in. Now Kashinath Ghanekar was backed by the written word of Pradhyapak Vasant Kanetkar, Professor Vasant Kanetkar, an amazing player.
All right.
Shyam Lagu had the backing of Vijay Tendulkar.
Right.
A storm which was coming in the form of Vijay Tendulkar. So with his writing and Dr. Lagu's acting, it was like a doubles match. Kanetkar and Kashinath on one side, and Dr. Lagu and Vijay Tendulkar on the other side. I mean, what pleasure and what joy and what luxury did the Marathi audience have at that point?
Absolutely fascinating. Welcome back, folks. This is Himanshu, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Love of Cinema podcast. Of late, Indian cinema has seen a spate of biopics. Most of them, however, have been rather lopsided, almost hagiographies. One of my favorite films from last year was a film which showed that you can tell a person's life story without turning it into a hagiography. Arnie Dr. Kashinath Ghanekar brought to screen the mercurial rise and the equally spectacular fall of Kashinath Ghanekar, the first superstar of Indian theatre. I think the film worked well because it succeeded in showing us everything from the style and flair of Ghanekar, which made him a massive star, to his flaws, his insecurities, his arrogance, which finally brought him down. The film's not only an honest and well-rounded character study, but also an engaging exploration of the fragility and intoxication of stardom. I got a chance to speak with the film's writer and director, Abhijeet Deshpande, about Ghanekar, as well as another show which he wrote for, Breathe, a compelling crime drama which streams on Amazon. In case you haven't watched it yet, I would recommend it, especially if crime dramas are your cup of tea. Abhijeet and I also spoke on a wide variety of other topics, like some of his earlier work with Bijoy Nambiar, the challenges of writing for different eras, writing Marathi dialogues for Mumbai-based shows, and Marathi cinema. We chatted about the films being made in Marathi today, the footfalls for Marathi cinema, the kind of cinema we would love to see being made in Marathi, and Marathi screenwriting in general. Abhijeet had some brutally honest takes on where we stand today with regards to that. Abhijeet also recommended an excellent film, a film which perhaps many from the current generation might not have seen. V. Shantaram's Manus, the brilliant social drama which was later remade in Hindi as Aadmi, a film which Chaplin had raved about. We spoke about the film as well as the remarkably progressive cinematic voice that was V. Shantaram. All that on this episode. Just a quick reminder before we move on to my chat with Abhijeet. If you like this episode and enjoy similar conversations centered around films and streaming shows, do consider subscribing to our podcast. Our podcast is now live on all major platforms. Also, if you could, please do review us on iTunes. It would be much appreciated. And now, here's our chat. Hi Abhijeet, how are you?
I'm good, Himanshu. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks a lot for talking with us on the podcast.
Pleasure is entirely mine.
Thank you. I'm glad that we could find a time to do this chat. And first of all, let me say Ani Dr. Kashinath Ghanekar is a brilliant film. I really liked it. It's one
Thank
of my favorite films from last year,
Oh, thank you
and
so much. You're very kind.
I recommended that to a few of my American friends as well. And some of them have watched it, some of them are yet to watch it. But those
Okay.
who have watched it have really loved it too. And they had no idea about who this guy is, or they have never watched a Marathi film in their life.
Okay. Okay. That's so nice.
Great. So the movie is about the intoxication and fragility of stardom. And fandom too, just like stardom, can be pretty consuming, if not all consuming. Was Dinkar's character, the kid who is a fan of Ghanekar, an attempt to show that kind of a parallel?
Look, to begin with, I was trying to access a star's life, a superstar's life, which has never been done in cinema before, in Indian cinema. It's also Marathi cinema. So I was trying to access his life through a lot of other quarters as well. I mean, not just getting into his brain, but I also wanted to build his personality through his family, through his fan, through his boy. Okay, so there is a concept of a boy in Indian cinema or even in Indian theater. There is always this man Friday who's there with most of these stars, and they always have this one guy who'll get them alcohol, who'll get them women, who'll get them food, who'll get them everything, and he always remains in the sidelines. So I Sahib becomes one of the characters who is a sort of a boy for Kashinath. So the attempt was to basically access Kashinath Ghanekar through all these quarters. And all these people were representative of who they were. For example, the fans I wanted to represent through Dinkar Phule. So Dinkar Phule's character was a very interesting, the genesis of this character was a very interesting incident. Somewhere I had read that Kashinath Ghanekar one day received a phone call from a person who threatened to kill him. He said, "You will not enter theater. If you enter Shivaji Mandir or wherever, I'll kill you." Now, and there was nothing found about him. Who was the man who made this phone call? What happened? Did the police catch him? Of course, they didn't catch him. But it made me think, who would this guy be? Who would
Right,
want to kill a person who's not even there on the top at that point of time, who's down and out? And my analysis led me to the imagination that it could only be someone who's a jilted lover. And when I say jilted lover, I feel even a fan is a lover, you know.
right, right,
And I felt someone who has been extremely disappointed with his star because a lot of love leads to a lot of hate. You know, blind idealization always leads to hatred. I mean, I've seen that happen in my case. And there's so many filmmakers I used to worship. And then when they started making crap movies, more than being angry with them or more than being disillusioned, I felt hurt because these are the people who I have idealized all my life. My filmmaking, my sensibilities are based on them. So you don't have a right to make bad films because my identity is actually comes out of your identity. So Dinkar Phule character is that guy. He's a loner. He's a nobody. He's always bullied. And one day he has this whole stroke of a miracle where Kashinath Ghanekar is, his role model visits him. And that guy was everything that Dinkar Phule was all about. Now, when Kashinath collapsed, when I'm saying collapse, Kashinath Ghanekar's image started collapsing. When he started making a fool of himself, Dinkar Phule was represented those many fans which got hurt. That generation after generation after generation who watched Kashinath, they all got hurt. A lot of them just left the theater. They didn't want to watch theater. There's disillusionment.
right,
Dinkar
right,
Phule becomes an extreme case of that disillusionment where he says, "Okay, I will destroy you. I would rather make you a good memory than allow you to make a fool of yourself." So that was Dinkar Phule.
right, right. He's like the completely obsessed fan. And I just
Absolutely.
thought it was quite interesting, like how, because one arc is showing how, Ghanekar's stardom is all consuming and he's completely drunk on his stardom. And then
Yeah.
on the other hand, we have Dinkar Phule, who is sort of drunk on his fandom because, like you said, his world revolves around this person.
Yeah, more than drunk, Himanshu, what I would say is that that is what he's all about.
That's
Like
his
if you ask
identity,
him,
right?
yeah, I mean, that's his identity. I'm Kashinath's fan. That's his identity.
Right.
So
Interesting.
it's his survival, I would say, more than being drunk on it. It's who he's about.
Right, right. It's even worse then.
Yeah, it's even worse than that.
Right, right. Now, the movie also lends a window to the dynamics and personal politics of the Marathi theater's golden era, so to speak.
Yes.
With the thread between Dr. Shriram Lagu and Ghanekar. And I was reading about this, and some never acknowledged Ghanekar as an actor. In fact, I recently saw Vikram Gokhale on a popular Marathi interview show, Maza Katta, where he called him a ham. And I wanted to take you back to the time when you were researching for the film and ask you if there indeed was a divide, so to speak, when it came to acknowledging Ghanekar's craft.
Oh, you've done your homework well. I must congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
So, look, uh, when you talk about the golden era, obviously you're talking about someone who has created this golden era. A golden era doesn't come on its own. There is someone who becomes a trigger point, so to say, who brings it. And Kashinath Ghanekar, I can very comfortably say that he's the one who got the golden era of Marathi theatre, because what he did, or what happened was in 1966, the youth started coming to the Marathi theatre, and that was largely because of Lalya, the character. So that changed the dynamics, that changed the economics of the theatre. And when the economics change, obviously, a lot of other things also around it change. But what happens, and this is also empirically, I can also say, and it's also an observation which happens in mostly all industries and all cultures, that when there is someone reigning out there, there is always that someone who, there's always, whenever there is a champion, there is always a challenger. Because if there is no challenger, then there is no champion. I mean, they feed on to each other. I mean, why does a champion remain a champion? Because he is always insecure about someone will displace me, someone will displace me. That insecurity also leads them to destruction, but insecurity also leads them to survive, and it's their essential fuel which makes them survive. So to talk about this interesting rivalry, see, to be honest, there is no book in this world which mentions about this rivalry. There is no book. It was only a bit of research that led me to do this. But what happened between 1966 to 1969, Kashinath had a free hand. He was ruling like nobody's business. Everything that he was doing was sort of getting applause, getting acceptance, and getting the love of the people. And then what you start doing is that you start imitating yourself. You start following your own self. You start becoming your own role model. And when you see, I mean, after the film, people approach me, they take pictures, they sort of take autographs and all. And this is maybe a fraction of what Kashinath must have faced. Even this fraction makes me feel good. Imagine what Kashinath must be going through to do that 3 times a day, every day, 7 days a week, 30 days a month. What you do is that you start falling in love with yourself, and that basically closes all doors to argument, to dissent, to learning, and to improvisation. You don't want to grow, you don't want to change. You think this is it. This is the pattar ki lakir. Now what happens is that becomes your recipe, that becomes your defense mechanism to stay who you are and to maintain your stardom. But the people are evolving, the people are growing, especially the Marathi audience, because Marathi audience has grown up on great literature, on plays, literature, reading, newspapers, novels. Right. So they have a certain sensibility which is ever changing and which is only evolving. Now what starts happening is that for 3 years you're having a free run, and now people want something more from you, but they also want the same things from you. Now what happens is that then suddenly this guy comes, Dr. Shriram Lagu. He's come from the British theatre. He's learned theatre outside. So what he does is that see, there are 2 ways in which you can make a line small. One is if you rub a line, or second is if you draw a line which is bigger than that line. What Shriram Lagu did is that he didn't try to destroy Kashinath. He made his own stature so big and so great that Kashinath suddenly started looking like a ham in front of him. When I did Nata Samrat, when we were promoting Nata Samrat, we had the opportunity to visit Dr. Lagu. We started our campaign from his house. We took his blessings, and there we started our promotional campaign. So even in that age, he told us one thing. What was his brief for doing the play Nata Samrat? By the way, you must be knowing, he's the first Nata Samrat. His whole thing was that it was high melodrama with restraint. He had to feel everything but express only this much. Now you understand, Himanshu, where I'm coming to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Here is a man who's playing to the galleries and who's completely about expression, who's about projection, who's about taking those artificial pauses, waiting for people to react. And on the opposite side, there is this man who's saying that I'm going to feel everything, I'm going to do everything, but express only so much. I'm going to create an audience of my own. So the whole approach between a designer and a tailor, where a tailor, acha, you want this, I'll give you this. You want a red shirt, I'll give you a red shirt. You want half sleeves, I'll give you half sleeves. That's a tailor who gives people what they want. And there's a designer who say, boss, I'm going to create my own designs and you better change your aesthetic according to how I create. Which is why I've kept that line where the woman interviews Dr. Shyam Lagu. And she says that, people like Kashinath Ghanekar. So he says, ek asto rangari, which means there is a painter.
Right.
Or, for a lack of better word, painter who paints on walls and everything and who paints what is demanded of him. And then there is an artist who, with his own aesthetic, changes the sensibility of a generation. Now, that is a very evolved thought. And it is also the thought and the difference between these two people. And I thought that if I'm talking about Kashinath Ghanekar, it will be stupid to just tell a personal story. I wanted to tell the journey of Marathi theatre. How he came, consolidated the Marathi theatre when it was floundering with Raigadala Jeva Jagete, created a, sort of consolidated it with Ashrunji Zali Phule, with Lalya. He just took it to another level, the economics changed. And then the third turn which Marathi theatre took was in the form of Dr. Lagu coming in. Now, Kashinath Ghanekar was backed by the written word of Pradhyapak Vasant Kanetkar, Professor Vasant Kanetkar, an amazing player.
All right.
Shyam Lagu had the backing of Vijay Tendulkar.
Right.
A storm which was coming in the form of Vijay Tendulkar. So with his writing and Dr. Lagu's acting, it was like a doubles match. Kanetkar and Kashinath on one side, and Dr. Lagu and Vijay Tendulkar on the other side. I mean, what pleasure and what joy and what luxury did the Marathi audience have at that point?
Absolutely fascinating. Yeah.
So that was my whole access point to creating this rivalry. But just to sum this or discussion up on this particular topic, it was a three-way rivalry at that time. Kashinath Ghanekar, Dr. Shyam Lagu, and another great actor called Satish Dubhashi.
Right. Yes. I was going to ask you, Abhijeet. So you said Ghanekar started, stormed in around 1966, right?
62 Raigadala Jeva Jage, 66 he became a superstar.
Okay. Now, if we just look at the era before 62, who was getting the top billing on Marathi stage?
No. So after the Bal Gandharva era, there was a void.
Okay, gotcha.
And
so there was a big
Bal Gandharva, there was not this kind of a. I mean, it was not like people waiting to just touch him. It was not this kind of a reverence. See, Bal Gandharva was always revered. Was he's God? He's someone who. We can just look up to him. We can't talk to him. Kashinath is like, hey, Kasha. There was an ownership in that fandom. There was a sense of ownership. I can abuse you. I can say that, hey, Lalya, Salya, ye na, I galya. So there was a sense of reverence that people had for Kashinath.
That's a great point, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. There are so many small nuggets in the film, which I would love to talk with you sometime or some other time, because we need to cover a lot of other stuff today. But another thing I really loved about the film is the production design. I think you guys did a great job in terms of recreating that particular era. Could you tell us more about how much of it was shot on specially designed sets? For example, the theater scenes, the interior, the exterior of the theater, were those sets, or is that shot on location?
No, there are 2-3 aspects to it. So also I would like to acknowledge my art director Santosh Futane, my associate director Mitali Mahajan, who's also an architect. So she was also sort of overseeing the entire production design, and Prasad Sutar, who did the VFX for this. So look, we were when it comes to Marathi film, we obviously have to operate in constraints, budgetary constraints. So we were talking about 1960s. It's an era which is a very caught up era. It's very difficult to create that era. So there are 3 things which help us create an era. One is, of course, your clothes. Second is, of course, the lingo that you speak. And third is, of course, the architecture. Now, with the help of these 3 things, we were going to transport people back into that era. So Nachiket Barve, who did the costumes for the film, he did a fabulous job in terms of the research and everything. Santosh Putane, who was doing the art design. So what we realized is that there were some structures, the roads, I mean the buildings and all. Not everything we will be able to create on VFX. So we built a set of Shivaji Mandir. We couldn't shoot on real location because Shivaji Mandir now has changed. So we built a bit of the exterior of Shivaji Mandir, and the interiors we shot in 4 or 5 theaters near Sangli, Miraj, and Ichalkaranji, because those theaters are still caught up in that era. There's still time in that time capsule. So we could get those interiors of those theaters which were there at that time. Then we also shot in a theater called Sahitya Sangh, which is there in Girgaon. So we sort of mixed and matched shots of the stage, the audiences, and a lot of space, because I wanted to show you a theater. I wanted to show you a voyeuristic outlook towards theater. Not the when you go as an audience, you see a theater in a certain way, but I wanted to take you backstage. I wanted to take you in the green room. I wanted to take you at the light and sound room. I wanted to take you into the corridors. I wanted to show you what happens before an actor's entry. So I wanted to give you a 360-degree tour of the theater when you come to watch the film. So I found a lot of these spaces in theaters near Sangli, Ichalkaranji, and Miraj. So we married that with Sahitya Sangh, and that's how we created the interiors of this thing. Of course, we had to redo a little bit here and there so as to give it a complete look. But that is to answer your question about how we created the sets. We did relied a bit on the research. And we had to build the sets of Ashwinji Phule, Raigada Jagete, Kasisa Chandra, and all the Natasamrat, all of that. Those are the
Sure.
sets which we had to build from the beginning. And also we used to create the exterior of Mumbai. We used a bit of the set that we built, and a bit of the VFX to extend and to give depth to it. Because not
Got it.
everything was possible for me in the given budget to create in real. Otherwise I would have loved to build old Mumbai as a city.
Right, right. But it's costly, right? I understand.
It is very
Yeah,
costly.
but it's wonderfully done. It's wonderfully done.
Thank you so
And
much.
I got to ask you this: is the camera used on the sets of Pendarkar's film, is that a real camera or is that a prop?
Yes, so that's uh, I forget the name. It's a Mitchell camera. It's a Mitchell camera.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it is an actual real camera.
Yeah, it's a real. In fact, if you see during Gomu Sangtina, the song,
Yes.
the way it begins, he passes that camera. So that's also that's the same one. Yeah, we ordered that. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you guys bought a new camera for this, or you got it from
No,
some?
I mean the camera that is shown in the film that is
Yes.
shooting. No, we didn't buy it because that guy doesn't sell it, and he's the only guy, and he's very particular and careful about his camera.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I'm just
so
surprised he let you borrow it outdoors and everything. So
yeah, I don't know, but he's always there with his camera. Because see, that is the sort of detailing that we did for the film, and what we did was that we did every detailing and we pushed it in the background. So I did not give you a close up of the camera to just boast. So this is the kind of detailing we are doing. We didn't want to do that. That's cheap. That's
right,
stupid.
you don't want to make that the center of the film, right?
No, because I don't want to take names, but films have done that. They have done some bit of research somewhere, and then they want to show the audience, "Ki, see, we have done the research." That makes no sense. I mean, that's bad aesthetic.
Now, I was just talking a minute ago about the small nuggets from the movie, which I really liked. And this particular scene, which I also liked, is the scene where Pendarkar tells Raja Paranspe that perhaps he should consider Ghanekar for Patlak. And is that something
Yes.
which really happened, or is that something you wrote in?
Both
In
actually.
the sense to as a suggestion from Pendarkar.
I don't remember whether it actually happened in reality or no, but Raja Paranspe was assisting on Maratha Tituka Milwa, and it is only after that he did Patlak. So, and see, I was also see when it comes to screenplay, now whatever character you build up, you establish, you have to give justice to it. So I thought it is pretty much in the world of the film if the suggestion comes from Bhalji Pendarkar, because that gives me a great scene where he says that Kashinath is like a assortment of food grains. There are also some pebbles and some stones in it, but you need to know what to pick, which sort of makes a statement on him that he's a mixed bag. And then he's also saying that you should give him patlak. So somewhere that is also the Bhalji Pendarkar's as a director his observation that this guy is waiting for claps, this guy is stupid, but he's also talented. So it is a fact that he is talented, but he's also a little whimsical. So that was sort of that statement that you should take him in Patlak is a bigger statement than saying that he's mad and he's an assortment of food grains. So that sort of sums up Balji Pendarkar's judgment of Kashinath.
Right,
And that
right.
line, by the way, he said it in real. Huh? He said it in real. He had
Oh,
said
okay.
it to Kanchan that he's an assortment of many food grains and you should know what to pick from him. And I thought,
I
instead of
see.
it being just him saying it in isolation to Kanchan, what if he says it to Raja Paranspe? So
Very
that sort
interesting.
of, because then it acquires a bit of legitimacy and it acquires meaning. A director telling other director, another director that you cast him, but you should know what to pick from him.
Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Abhijit, let's move on to Breathe now because we have to. I have a lot of questions to ask you. So,
Okay.
um, another show which I really liked, and the core theme of the show is essentially, the limits a common man will breach in the interest of his family's well-being. An age-old theme, very similar to Breaking Bad, a show I adore. Was
Right.
Breaking Bad one of your inspirations
I've
behind
not
this
watched
show?
Breaking Bad.
You haven't watched it?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I want to watch it because I was told that Shah Rukh Khan loves that show and I love Shah Rukh Khan. So
It's
that's why I wanted to watch
it's a
it. But I couldn't.
wonderful show. I think you will love it.
Yeah, but let me tell you, the core idea of Breathe is not mine. It belongs to Mayank Sharma, and Mayank
Yes.
Sharma and his writer Vikram Tuli they developed that into some sort of a written material, and obviously then they knew that there was a lot of work to be done on that. That's when they got me on board. Now, what my contribution to Breathe essentially, apart from the dialogues and apart from creating the world of the character, apart from creating the lingo, the spoken lingo, and the difference between the lingos and giving character through dialogue. Apart from all these things, is basically zeroing down on what is the core theme and making these two characters, Madhavan and Amit Sad. So here I thought, okay, what if it's the story of these two guys, one who's already faced a tragedy, the other is about to face a tragedy, and their lives intertwining. Now, when we zeroed down on this statement, we suddenly got the structure of the film. And that's
Yeah.
how we are able to build their characters and dig deeper into their characters.
And I loved many of the things that the show does. One of those things is the motifs from a buddy cop genre, with respect to the dynamic between Amit Saad and Rishikesh Joshi. And that's
Yeah,
very 80s, 90s Hollywoodish, if you will.
that's even done today. Our Hero Ka Dost is like always there.
Yes, yes.
They also did it in Sacred
It's
Games.
right.
Everyone does.
Right, right. But I think it kind of tips his hat to, some of those, again, those old 80s, 90s Hollywood films like 48 Hours and Lethal Weapon. And are you guys fans of those movies? Just wondering.
I haven't seen. I tell you, Himanshu, honestly,
Yeah.
I don't watch too many films, so I've not watched
Oh, really?
48
Okay.
Hours. Yeah,
Okay.
no, no, I haven't watched. But I've watched a lot of Amitabh Bachchan films and well, Hindi
Yes.
cinema I've watched a lot.
Yes.
So, but even there you had a hero ka dost, or a cop and a sidekick. Because see, what happens is that this character is a very brooding sort of a character, and a lot of the thoughts that I wanted to externalize, I couldn't because he won't talk too much. So I wanted someone who is around him who would make him vocal about that and with whom he can discuss. See, because it's very difficult. Now let's talk about the craft of screenplay writing. When you read a book, it's very easy to communicate that Amit sir is sitting here and thinking that he should be doing this. It's very easy to do that. In a screenplay, on movie, in cinema, how will you externalize these thoughts? That's why you create characters which will help you externalize. That's where Amit starts talking to Rishikesh Joshi, and that's how you understand what is going on in his mind. This is a very basic example I'm giving you. So, but the craft of screenplay writing essentially entails you to make characters which will help you externalize a lot of things which you can otherwise not be able to because of the medium of cinema.
And some of the Marathi writing for Rishikesh Joshi's part was quite effective too. I thought it was
Yeah,
head
yeah,
and
yeah.
shoulders above somewhat shallow Marathi dialogues found on some of the other Hindi shows. Was that
Yeah.
something that he improvised or you and he worked
No,
on?
no, no, no. Completely. We see what happened is that you know when you talk about Mumbai, Mumbai is probably the only city in the world which changes dialect every 10 kilometers. The Marathi that is spoken in Warsaw, where I stay, and the fishermen and all, everyone stays there, is very different from the Marathi that is spoken in Vile Parle is very different from the Marathi spoken in Lower Parel, is very different from the Marathi which is spoken in Girgaon, and is very different from the Marathi which is spoken in, say, Bhandup and those areas. So you imagine the versatility that the city offers in terms of lingo. Now, what we do in our laziness of writing is that ha wo Mumbaiya. So we lose nuance, we lose variety. What I wanted to do was that I wanted to explore that aspect also. So Rishikesh Joshi essentially stays in a chawl. I wanted that sort of a lingo to come this thing. Cop speaking has to be different. Amit sir is also Marathi in that, as in he plays a. So that sort of a which may had given him some lines. I don't remember whether he's taken that or not, but I'm sure he has. So his Marathi will be a little different to the Marathi of a chief minister who's talking, I mean, may not necessarily talk in Marathi. Chief Minister नहीं अपना वो क्या the commissioner, DCP or commissioner, whoever that was. So that will be
Right.
slightly different, because they come from a higher class of Marathi. So I wanted to essentially explore the city through the language that it speaks.
Yeah, and feels very real. I mean, it feels
Yeah,
it's very real. It feels like you're actually in Mumbai, as opposed to some of the other shows that I thought that the Marathi dialogue, especially, it seems kind of fabricated. And
yeah. So, but
it
here also
obviously
I
must
would.
have helped since you yourself are a Maharashtrian, so
Yeah,
it's gonna make a
that
difference.
definitely helps. And also the credit to the actors, Rishikesh Joshi
Oh,
and
definitely, yes, both did a great job.
even the other actors. Because see, essentially I will write it, then I'll rewrite it, and I'll make it conversational. But eventually they are the ones who have to carry it. They have to take the right pauses. They have to, sort of deliver it. So complete credit to them, because I have in the past seen my good lines being butchered. So at that time, I blamed the actor. So if my good lines are becoming good or remaining good, I have to credit the actor there. So obviously, there complete credit to them.
Now, you have worked on David and Shaitan with Bijoy Nambiar,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And for this, you also wrote the dialogues, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you about David in particular. Now, all three different stories in that picture happen in different parts of the world and in a different era. Can you tell us
Right.
what goes in behind the craft of writing dialogue for different eras and different parts of the world, and at the same time making it seem like one whole unit?
No, I think it's a luxury, I feel, because there is a obvious expectation here that you have to make dialogues which are from three different worlds. When there is an obvious expectation, it's a job easy done. So okay, has to be from London, one has to be from wherever Goa or Mangalore or wherever, and one has to be from Bombay. So there are these obvious three words, and so you write accordingly. What you do there is that you try to pick up some local nuance. You try to call up your friends who are from there. You try to pick up some words, something somewhere, like woblocks and all that. Those sort of words that I used for the Goa thing. Analogies about fish, examples about that. So you try to go and explore that world a little more deeper. So that happens. But that brings me to dialogue, essentially as a craft. What I feel is that we try to make things uniform, and that is where we lose nuance. Like I said before, no two people speak the same. So if I say you are a Marathi from who lives in America, you still speak Himanshu different from my cousin who lives in America and who's also Marathi. Now, if I just say NRI Marathi and I'll make both your conversations same, then I'm being stupid about it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So here is a chance for a writer or dialogue writer to give character to his dialogue. Now that becomes a very essential part of dialogue writing, which not a lot of our colleagues essentially practice, but they should.
Right, and it is that much more challenging because, like you said, now again, there are three different styles that need to be carried off by the respective actors again as a whole.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that in David it was relatively easier for me to do than it was in Shaitan because Shaitan everyone is from Bombay.
Hmm.
Most of the characters. So then how do I make Rajiv Khandelwal different from a Dash, as in the cop, different from Dushyant Sahu, who's Shiv Pandit, and Dushyant Sahu different from Gulshan Devia, which is Casey. So how do I make that different? And I've still made them different. And of
Correct.
course, credit to the actors also because they carried it very well.
Shaitan is also a good film. I really like that film as well.
Yeah, and but that is completely a director's film. So complete credit to Bijoy Nambiar for the kind of film that he made.
Now, Abhijit, I wanted to chat with you about Marathi cinema just in general as to where we stand. And I had a few questions and wanted to get your insight on those. So, you know how we have seen a mini kind of a renaissance of sort over the last few years when it comes to Marathi cinema. Several good films across the board, if I may say so, in terms of themes, genres that are being made. Yet, we don't see the kind of footfalls for Marathi cinema which we would expect for good content, good films. Now, I understand that we can't really compare ourselves with the South, with
Right.
their regional cinema, because the film culture in South is much more reverent. It's heavily star-centric, that kind of a thing. But why do you think we don't see footfalls for Marathi cinema which are commensurate with the improved caliber of the films being made?
Why don't we see footfalls for Marathi cinema? If you
Yes.
want that answer in one line, I can say because we make shit films.
But that's not, I would disagree with you in when I look at the past few years, right? I mean, there have been some very good films that have been made.
Okay, so if I can just throw across a statistic, around 120 films are made a year. Out of that, around 70 release for a good year. For a very, very good year, like 2018, we have four hit films. Four in a single year has never happened in the history of Marathi cinema in the last
Okay, let me stop you there for a minute, if I may, and ask
yeah,
you
yeah,
for
yeah.
those four films, did we have footfalls which were commensurate with those films' expectations?
Yeah, why not? Like Kashinath Ghanekar, then which other film? Nar, uh, Mumbai Pune Mumbai because it's a franchise film,
There was
and
also a Munshi pattern, right?
Mulshi Pattern. Four films have done well. If you look at 2017, which other films have done well? Nothing. 2016, two films did well. Natasamrat, Sairat. That's it.
So you still think that the overall percentage of the films that are being made are not?
No.
Uh,
We are making very bad films. Let me because see, it's a like when I talk to people in Hindi and all, they are, Marathi में क्या काम हो रहा है? What great work we are doing. No, we are not doing great work. Himanshu, and that's a very sad thing. And the point is, there are certain lobbies here, and I don't want to take it in the name of any city or something, who are very happy in their own coterie, who are very happy in their own circle, who will scratch each other's backs and say, you made a good film, and you will say that I made a good film. And we are happy with that status quo. We don't acknowledge the fact that we are making shit cinema. The part of solving a problem is to acknowledge that there is a problem, right? Unless we don't acknowledge that we are making bad films, how will we take steps to improve it? Now, why is it a reason that we are making bad films? Now, let's not just bitch about it or let's not just make this a crib session. Let's look at the problems. Let's look at the
Reasons
causes why
behind
we are
it,
making
right?
good cinema, making bad films, and then we'll also come to solutions. But the reason why we are making good, we are not making good cinema is because we are not acknowledging craft as an essential part of cinema. So we all come from theater, we all come from literature, most of us do. We feel that a good story is a good film, but no, boss, a good story doesn't ensure a good film because a good story has to be translated to the screen in terms of a good screenplay. We have good story writers, but we have horrible screenplay writers. Sorry, we don't even have one single writer who is worth his salt, a Marathi writer. Not one single writer who's a good screenplay writer. We don't have one single writer who I can say I want to be like him, who I can say that this is the man who can change. Not one good screenplay writer. So what happens is that we make good stories, bad screenplays, and then we don't know how to tell our screenplays on the screen with the help of camera. Of course, all of that is changing. I mean, the camera part is changing because we are getting good technicians, people are learning, all that is changing. But unless you have good screenplays, Himanshu, how will we be able to tell our stories better?
So you're saying essentially the problem is with the content. I mean, if the
Absolutely,
content
it is
was
with the
good, the footfalls would be reflective in the numbers. That's what you're
yeah.
saying.
Look, Subodh Bhave gave Kashinath Ghanekar. it was a successful film by God's grace and by people's love and expectations. Now you look at all the same ingredients, you put them into some other bag, which is not backed by a good screenplay. And I'm not saying this because I was a part of that screenplay. Just look at, it will not be a good recipe. It will not be. The problem is we don't understand that screenplay as a craft exists. Ha likha, anyone writes. Anyone comes across, takes a paper and a pen and starts writing. And then they shoot that also. And then they even scratch each other's back. They have these film festivals especially designed for certain cities where those people operate heavily on biases that it is your film, so I will take it. Then they'll gather 10, 15 people, 20 people, 50 people, and they'll do wawa. They will not be looking at box office numbers. They will not look at anything else. And then they'll be happy. And then they'll go back and again start doing the same crap again and again and again. And we continue to be at the same place where we were 10 years ago. It's a very sad thing. Unless someone tells them that you are doing crap, you will not be able to do better.
I see. So you're saying first, we are not even acknowledging the fact that
you're not acknowledging it.
Yeah. Right. And that certainly has to be the first step towards understanding that there is a problem and we got to fix that.
Yeah. And plus also there should be some education in writing for a lot of our writers in terms of what is screenplay and what is a craft of screenplay. Now here everyone is a vidwan. Everyone thinks that he knows everything. So then where will you take steps to improve your craft? Sachin Tendulkar, in spite of scoring a century against Australia, next day he will still be going in the nets and practicing. Na? He'll not say, I have scored a century, I am Sachin Tendulkar, so I am done, boss, I am God. Because next day it's a new inning. He's still batting on zero again. And that's why Sachin Tendulkar. But here, everyone is a champion. We have done something somewhere in the past. So why should we improve? And there's no one even to tell you around that you are bad. Everyone thinks you are good, as in your own coterie. So that's the problem.
And what about these things I see on the social media? Like, for example, all these writers' labs and workshops, they must be turning out some, good young talent who could write.
No. So what we at Screenwriters Association are trying to do is trying to exactly solve this problem which the Marathi industry also faces and even the Hindi film industry faces. The lack of craft and lack of writers. What we are trying to do is that we are trying to encourage younger talent to come out and not just tell their stories, but also inculcate in them the discipline of craft. Because craft is something which can be learnt. Writing is something which is natural. But only natural talent amounts to nothing, as we have seen. It has to be backed by great craft. We are taking initiatives to do that, but we need to do that a little more. And we need a lot of support from the industry also. We need funding. We need a lot of the practical and administrative problems have to be solved because our intentions are noble and we really want newer, younger voices to be heard, to be seen and to be coming to the fore. We don't want old, jaded people who are happy in their gloom and luxury to be writing.
Comfort zone, yeah.
We don't want that. We want younger people to come in.
And how do you think the writers in the South have managed to come up with
amazing?
Some
I'm a big fan of the South
writing. And so, are they working on like understudy programs or what kind of?
No, see, I don't know what discipline they are going through or what education they are going through, but I'm sure they must be having their own film schools and they must see. But the kind of cinema that they make is in itself a great doctrine to learn from. Like I watch a lot of films in the South. They are great in terms of the craft. Tamil is completely different from Telugu. Telugu is different from Malayalam. I mean, all these three industries, they are taking the world by storm.
Yeah, and each of them has their own separate, unique voice.
And they have a unique signature. They are maintaining that and they are boasting about it. Here, what in Marathi we are trying to do is that now we are trying to remake films from the South. Why do you want to do that? I don't understand.
And do you think now with the onset of streaming, things will change a little bit? There might be more talent that might be attracted towards writing for Marathi cinema.
They should be. See, what we are doing, what we are planning to do is a script lab in association with the Scriptwriters Association and getting a big producer on board. So we'll be inculcating this sense of discipline in the writers. We'll be giving them exposure. We'll be giving them expert guidance. We'll be giving them some workshops, some training sessions, and we'll be asking them to, we'll selecting us 4, 5, 6 writers and giving them a certain incubation environment for their stories so that those ideas, those good concepts can be translated into great screenplays. And then we'll also be giving them backup so that, uh, great screenplays now will make them into films. Also giving them opportunities. And we'll be doing that year on year and year. And we'll be trying to increase that bandwidth from 6 to 8, 8 to 12, and maybe having more of these programs.
Right. Another film that I really liked from last year, not a Marathi film, it was supposed to be made in Marathi before, I think, is Tumbad, which I really
Oh,
loved.
yeah, I love that film.
And I think, Rahi Barve wasn't able to make that in Marathi. But I sometimes wonder if those kind of films were made in Marathi and they were success, or at least got the critical acclaim like Tumbad did, would that change the equation a little bit? Because then we would see,
Because of,
more kind of genre cinema, and,
yeah, yeah.
young kids really like genre stuff, because that's what like graphic novels and, comics and everything is. And they really dig that. So sometimes I wonder what kind of a difference that would have made.
So that could have made a difference. I'm very happy that that film was made in Hindi. I'm happy for Rahi Anil Barve, who's also first time director, and I can understand the pains and tribulations of a first time director. So I'm very happy for him. But I'm very sad for Marathi cinema that that film didn't get made in Marathi,
Yeah, I totally agree
because
with
that
you
would have
on both
kind of
accounts.
sort of
Yes.
uh, brought in a lot of international attention to that. See what happened with Rashomon. Rashomon won the best foreign language film. It won the Venice. I'm talking about way back. The Venice, the biggest prize and all, and it moved the whole world's focus to Japanese cinema. And then that was the start of a whole revelation in Japanese cinema. So similar, I don't see why. And it is that one film which does that. It is that one film. And Tumbad, I feel, had the potential of doing that.
Yeah, and especially, the one thing that I really always think about is that we have this kind of a treasure trove of Marathi literature and even contemporary, like, relatively contemporary modern Marathi novels and everything. Like, imagine something like a Frank Miller kind of animation from around, woven around the story of Thackeray brothers. Or,
Right.
like a noir set in Konkan, and maybe in black and white or something like that. I mean, I would love to watch films like these.
See, there are two things to it. One is these ideas that you just spoke about are not going to come from 50 plus age directors.
Hmm.
They are only going to come from newer and younger directors and writers. Okay, I'm generalizing, but that is how it is going to be. So
And
it
and
is
you're
our
saying
response.
that it's the 50 plus who are usually the decision makers. Is that what you're trying to imply?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that these are the. And there's nothing wrong in that because we have some very good. Mahesh Mansekar is a 50 plus director, but I love him.
Absolutely.
So, there are exceptions, but I'm saying largely, what are we doing to inculcate the younger voices as an industry? What are we doing? What is the industry? What are the stakeholders doing to make sure that a younger script is sort of sees the light of the day? You still want to keep making the same old shit again and again and again. And then now the whole thing of sequels, it's not going to work, man. It's not going to work.
Right. Yeah, there is this tendency to get caught up between, what's
And
working
not
and
just
then kind of
Marathi.
try
See,
to
even
milk them again and again and again.
no, 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 because see, even Hollywood is doing the same thing here.
Yeah.
It's doing sequels. It's doing franchise films. Of course, their budgets and everything allow them to make unique franchise films, but eventually they're doing the same thing, right? And they're doing spin-offs, and then they're doing characters, and then blah 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 blah. Here also we keep making this, then this is two, then three, and how long will you keep doing that? How will वो गाय मर जाएगी ना इतना दूध तो मत निकालो उसका.
All right, moving on. Um, let me ask you this, Abhijeet. What's the one thing from the world of films which you, as a creative artist, think about a lot, or in your spare time, or whenever you're by yourself, but you rarely get an opportunity to talk about on a public forum or publicly? Any particular aspect of filmmaking, or like we already talked about where Marathi cinema stands and why, what the problems are and why they're there. Anything else other than that?
No, biopics generally I do think of them a lot, and I feel that been largely disappointed with all the biopics that have come in Indian cinema. Largely.
Reason being?
Two reasons. One is lack of craft. But the bigger reason is because we in every biopic we try to pay tribute to the person. We make it about revering him. We make it about, oh wow, what a great man. We don't explore the human inside the champion. We don't show gray shades. We don't show dilemmas. We don't show conflicts. We just achievement, 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 good, 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 sugarcoating everything. Then we
But see,
even
that's the thing, right? I mean, again, I totally agree with what you're saying. But, in day and age where every little thing is, being contrived by some political group or, some group somewhere, how do you go about making something that is so balanced and so true to the subject matter? I mean, it's going to be a heck of a task to do anything besides the hagiography.
yeah, but look, I'm not trying to present a very Puritan point of view or a very senselessly romantic sort of a thing that
Sure.
writers should keep writing and then let's see what happens. See, we operate in practical environment. We operate in a world where everything is politicized. Uh, we are operating in funny times right now. But when you, out of no compulsion, no constraint, when you go out of your way and when you falsify history just to make a few bucks, and when you certify that a certain person is an innocent guy and a victim of circumstances and not a terrorist, or was such a sweet and a vulnerable person, then you are being dishonest to your craft, to your art. Then that is not required. That was not required.
Right,
You
right.
get what I'm saying?
That's merely propaganda.
See, propaganda or whatever you are saying, or just being a good friend, I don't know. But I feel very, very disappointed when you see such kind of falsehood, especially from people who I revere. Then your gods fall. And when a god fall, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So somewhere, see, there are two types of corruptions. One is the corruption that happens because of constraint, and one is the corruption that happens because of imagination. Now, this is purely a corruption of imagination, and that is not allowed. You're not allowed to do that.
What are a couple of biopics that you would like to see or you would like to make, given a free hand?
Actually, I'm already making a couple of them, so
Oh,
too
really?
early to.
Can you talk about them?
No, I can't right now
Okay.
because we're still trying to figure out permissions and the
Fair
paperwork is
enough.
still.
Fair enough.
So that is, but but if you ask me that biopic that I would have loved to make, I would have loved to make a Bal Thackeray biopic.
Yes. You know what? Even more than just a Thackeray biopic, what I would have loved to watch is a film on Sharad Pawar, George Fernandes, and Bal Thackeray and their changing relationship and their friendship dynamics.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It would have been
What
a
a heck
treat.
of a story that would be.
Yes, but even in that film, I would not eulogize Thackeray. I would not pay tribute to Sharad Pawar, and I would not sugarcoat George Fernandes. I would show them for who they are. But I can promise you, Himanshu, the way you took Kashinath home when you watched the film, when you exit that film, you would take all these three characters home. That would be my bigger challenge in make showing them for who they are and yet making them understandable to you.
And I mean, I doubt if we will ever get to see any kind of a picture like this, at least not in our lifetime. Maybe, after 100 years or something, the parties
No,
will know more or
see,
something.
no, like a lot of people pointed out in the reviews of Kashinath and all that, for the first time they were seeing a biopic where you're showing the character, the lead character, the main character, doing all sorts of rubbish, showing him for who he is. And yet people liked him. Yet people did not, oh, you destroyed our legend. No, because you took him home, because you understood where he's coming from.
Right,
So
but
I don't see.
Abhijeet, let me ask you a question. I expect an honest response from you. Let's
Yes.
say that if Ghanekar was associated with some kind of political party at some point in time, do you think you
Uh,
would have ran into trouble? I'm pretty
we
sure
still
they
ran
would
into trouble
have.
with a political party.
Oh, really? Okay, which one?
So what happened was that Kashinath is playing Sambhaji in the film.
Ah, right.
So
Yes,
there
yes.
there is this some organization. It's actually the illegitimate child of some political party. I don't want to take names because they are not even worth it.
Sure,
So
sure.
what they did was that they are self-proclaimed custodians of some historical figures, which they know nothing about. I mean, they are limited by their imagination and they don't have taste, and they are all paid bastards of these organizations. So what they did was they tried to spread hate around this film and around this character, and they said that we will sort of try to protest and do this and do that, and we'll burn the theaters and all that. Uh, and they complained to the Maharashtra government. So the Maharashtra government sent representatives to watch the film to see if there will be a law and order situation created or no. The people from the Maharashtra government saw the film. They loved the film. They found nothing. They found nothing worth cutting or anything that would create a problem. And then those people had to shut the fuck up because they were on a paid propaganda. Now we didn't resign, we didn't pander to them. We pushed the envelope and we did the legal thing. And would like to congratulate the government that the government stood by us. More than saying that it stood by us, it stood by the truth. The Maharashtra government, the Devendra Fernandes government, and here we are. You saw the film.
And lastly, couple of recommendations from you, couple of underseen, quote unquote, Marathi film and an English film that you really like and would like to recommend our listeners.
Like Hindi film, so I would say Guide, and I
Okay.
still feel it is undiscovered to this generation. But what
Okay.
a mad film!
Yes.
Yeah, what a film! What a film!
Terrific.
Guide is that. Harishandraji Factory.
Yes, that was a nice film. Yeah.
And it was not such a commercial, unfortunately, for whatever reason, it didn't get the kind of commercial box office that it deserved. I thought it is one of the greatest Marathi films ever made. Greatest. One of the greatest.
It's a terrific film, no doubt. I even
So
like
that,
his the Hindi film that he made with Ayushmann Khurrana. I forgot the name of it, but it's about a scientist. It's like a blend of sci-fi and
oh
fantasy.
yeah, that
Yeah,
Hawaii.
Hawaii Zadeh or something.
Yeah, that.
It
Yeah,
was uneven, but I really liked the audacity of it.
yeah. But there is one film which I would definitely want to recommend to people is a film by the greatest director India has ever seen, V. Shantaram. This is film called Admi.
Pinjra?
Admi. No, Pinjara
Okay.
is way back. Admi is a film in 1936, 1936 or 37. It's about, at that time, it talks about a relationship between a prostitute and a cop, which was again remade several times by so many other people. But what a classic film that was. And that
Yes.
film was because V. Shantaram hated Devdas. He said because Devdas is an important loser and a generation of India will turn into a loser. So I need to give them someone with a man who has a heartbreak and who decides to survive. And he decides to make a film to counter a film. See, imagine the art at that level that I'm not going to counter your art by making protests or by burning theaters. That is now. Those are the times we live in now. Stupid people. Those are the times when I feel, as an artist, Himanshu, you made a film, you made a great film, but I don't agree with your film. No, I'm not going to write about it in the press. I'm going to make a film which counters your film. These are the wars. These are the wars of imagination. These are the wars of art. And that is what I love. And I would really recommend people to see Admi.
Fantastic
Manus.
recommendation.
Manus
Yes, yes. And we are talking 1936. So, that only tells us,
36, 37.
what
Yeah.
kind of progressive voice Vishantaram was.
Absolutely
So,
progressive voice. Absolutely.
he was way ahead of his times. And
Absolutely.
definitely, that's a great recommendation. Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate we got a chance to chat. And, would love to hear about your forthcoming projects whenever you're ready. Maybe we can do another episode then.
Surely, surely. I would love to do that and really want to congratulate you that you really did a great job in terms of the questions. Some of the toughest questions that I've faced in the last 6 months. So, and you did your homework well. So, wonderful talking to you, man.
Thanks a lot, Abhijeet.
Yes, thank you, Himanshu.
That was my chat with Abhijeet Deshpande. Ani Dr. Kashinath Ghanekar is a film which I believe is going to age well with time, precisely for its honest portrayal of its protagonist. As I mentioned in the episode intro, I also appreciated Abhijeet's brutally honest takes. Hope you liked it too. Do let us know your feedback. Any and all feedback is appreciated. You can follow me on Twitter at loveofcinemasf8 for podcast-related updates and my tweets on all things movies. That's all I got. See you next week. This is Himanshu, and like always, thank you for listening to the Love of Cinema podcast.